Thank you, Cole. Thanks, everybody. Just before I start, I just want to be sure people think this is worthwhile. It takes time out of our meeting. I'm not trying to back out of it by any means, but I just want to raise the issue whether it's not information that most of us already have, and so you can respond later on. But I'll continue anyway. So the big news, obviously, is the continuing ceasefire in Gaza. And I'm sure many of you have seen the very emotional and inspiring videos of tens of thousands of Gazans returning on foot and then later by vehicle to the northern part of the strip, which is largely destroyed, but they're returning to the ruins of their houses and claiming that this is a victory and a symbol of the unwillingness of Palestinians to abandon their land. And many, especially right-wing commentators in Israel, are also showing this as a defeat for them, that they have failed to destroy the willingness of the people of Gaza to survive and resist. And of course, uh, together with this movement to the north, many, many fighters from Hamas and the other armed organizations have come out and shown that they still exist, the resistance still survives, and so on. So this is a battering to the morale of Israel, and we can be glad of that, even though there's so much suffering, that preceded this and will follow. People are basically going to live in the ruins of their former dwellings in the north. Um, and interestingly, Trump's envoy to the Middle East, the real estate magnate Witkoff, is saying that he's going to visit Gaza himself sometime soon. Whether this will happen or not, I don't know. And by the way, vehicles attempting to return to the northern part of Gaza are screened for weapons, and there are U.S. private security firms that are participating in the screening. Trump, meanwhile, has repeated his call for the people of Gaza to be ethnically cleansed or evacuated, as he calls it. And again, how serious this is. Of course, the people on the Israeli right are thrilled by this. Again, it's impossible to know whether Trump is serious about something or not, but all the countries which have been mentioned as possible destinations for people from Gaza have clearly and publicly stated, no way. They're not going to participate in the ethnic cleansing of Gaza. That's Egypt, Jordan, Albania, Indonesia, and whoever else has been raised as a possible destination. Meanwhile, with the ceasefire at Gaza, Israel is continuing and even stepping up its assault on Palestinians in the West Bank and using tactics that have been unheard of before recent times. That is airstrikes, massive destructions of Palestinian neighborhoods, and so on. So again, it raises the question, even if somehow the ceasefire in Gaza, is maintained, what does it mean if Israel is using a ceasefire in Gaza to up its attacks on Palestinians elsewhere? Is this really a ceasefire? I would suggest, no, it's not. And Israel, particularly the Israeli right, has been, very firm in saying they want to resume their assault on Gaza. But I think realistically, it would not be easy, especially with so many people moving to the northern part of Gaza, which was planned for a while to be cleared of all civilians. And it's going to be hard, not impossible, but hard for Israel to resume its large-scale bombardment of Gaza if it fails to live up to the other steps 2 and 3 of the agreement. But you never underestimate Israel's willingness not to abide by any agreement, and that is the case in Lebanon. Last Sunday was supposed to be the last day that they were going to maintain any troops inside Lebanon, and they said, sorry, we're not going to do that. And the U.S. has given them a free pass until February 18th, another 3 weeks from now, to complete the withdrawal from southern Lebanon. And meanwhile, Lebanese civilians that have attempted to return home following the so-called end of the Israeli occupation have been fired on, and dozens have been killed and wounded by Israeli forces simply for trying to return home. And by the way, Israel is continuing to maintain the occupation of large swaths of southern Syria beyond the agreed upon, truce line from the 1970s. And they have said lately that they're going to maintain their occupation in this expanded area of Syria for an unlimited time. And also, Israel is continuing its threats to eradicate UNRWA as a Palestinian relief organization. Certainly, they've already banned them from Jerusalem. Whether they can succeed in shutting them down altogether is a question. The bill to sanction the International Criminal Court has stalled in the Senate. As I think you're all following, it couldn't get enough Democratic votes to shut off debate, which, as you know, in the Senate requires 60 votes these days. Only one Democrat voted with all the Republicans to move the bill forward, and that was Fetterman in Pennsylvania, whose fanatic loyalty to Israel is something I leave to psychiatrists to figure out. But there's something just insane about his loyalty to Israel against the wishes of his own party. So it may not be the end of this bill. The Democrats are not saying they won't support any ICC sanctions. They just think the ones on the table now in the current bill are too broad and threaten some American companies inadvertently. So supposedly they are negotiating behind the scenes to find an acceptable way to vote for sanctions against the ICC. And so I guess that's enough for now. And, I guess people can ask questions or discussion.
So for the sake of the video, let's divide responses into two categories. Straight up questions. Let's take them first. And then we'll open it up from broader discussion. So straight up questions only, please. Abby.
Jeff, how can sanctions against the ICC impact any companies?
Yeah.
Yes. Well, the way U.S. imposed sanctions work is that they sanction any companies doing business with the sanctioned entity. So potentially, the ICC has computers and uses, Microsoft and Google and other software, and companies that supply them with services could fall victim to these sanctions as well. That's why, the sanctions are so powerful, because they don't just sanction the target, they sanction third parties which may have anything to do with the target inadvertently or intentionally. So that's what the Democrats are saying. We're all for sanctioning the ICC, but we don't want to make it too broad so that U.S. companies may be targeted.
Thanks.
Dan, go ahead.
Jeff, the new head of the ICJ has been. I know it's. I don't know what's going on with that. Is it likely that she will reverse, dismiss, or make it institute delays in any next steps that they're trying to make?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, of course, the chair or the head of the ICC, it doesn't have sort of plenary powers. So the votes to accept the case and the rulings that have been taken so far can't be reversed. Whether there could be sort of administrative roadblocks or not, we don't know. And I'm not that familiar. I think she was elevated just on the sort of normal rotation and seniority rather than elected in any way. And of course, for those of you who are not following it, this is the delegate from Kenya, or is it Uganda? I forget, who was the lone vote against many of the rulings of the ICJ regarding Israel and Palestine. And she is a sort of lunatic Christian Zionist, basically, and that's her motivation. How someone like that got on the court in the first place is
Yeah.
a little bit of a mystery, but
Hmm.
clearly a lunatic, and so I don't know. I can't answer definitely, but I don't think whoever's the chair can, unilaterally stop the process of the ICJ.
Okay. Now that's good news, potentially good news.
Yeah, I hope so. Hope that's true. Okay, well,
Okay, I don't see any
Claire,
more
you're raising your hand.
questions, so we'll open it.
Quick question. What agency is getting food and supplies into Gaza?